So I recently finished playing the new God of War, and wow, it is a great game in every sense of the word. It's engaging for players who love deep and challenging gameplay, while at the same time it's also amazing from a storytelling perspective, exploring themes of loss and parenthood, while at the same time taking us through the magical world of Norse mythology. It is a masterpiece. But if there's anything you can count on fans to do, it's to nitpick, and this game has one very big nit for me to pick. Like many video games that have come before it, God of War has a McGuffin problem. Now, in case you don't know, a McGuffin is an object in a story whose only real purpose is to advance the plot. A big recent example of this is Infinity War, where the Infinity Gems are the McGuffin that's driving Thanos on his quest across the galaxy. And boy, does God of War have a lot of those. But before we get into that, I will be discussing some very light plot spoilers from the game. Nothing huge, none of the big character reveals or plot twists, but if you want to go in totally unspoiled, then definitely come back to this video after you've played the game. The goal of Kratos from the very beginning of the game is to carry his dead wife's ashes to the top of the highest peak in all the realms, and to spread them there. On the way, he and his son will encounter many different foes and adventures, and they'll bond in overcoming them. And at the end, after finally spreading her ashes, they'll both get a nice sense of catharsis. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. Because on the way up the mountain, the path is blocked by a deadly black fog, and so you have to go back down to another realm where you spend 4 hours getting a magic MacGuffin that will dispel said fog. Then, after you've dispelled the fog, you finally get into the mountain, where you discover that the way up is a broken elevator, so you now need to go and find the different bits to fix this elevator. Then you get to the top of the mountain, and it turns out you got the wrong mountain, and you're gonna have to go and get a special magic key that opens the portal to the right mountain. But before you can do that, you need to revive a dead severed head that will become a talking expository device to tell you where the next MacGuffin and every MacGuffin after that is. And we are less than 25% into the game right now. The rest of it continues in a very similar fashion. Every time you feel like the summit of the mountain is just beyond the next door, the game pulls you back, telling you that before you can get there, you're gonna have to find Odin's left testicle and a vial of Loki's tears. It's like a Rocket Raccoon shopping list. It's such a distinct contrast with the deep and meaningful character story that the game is telling that it shows that video games still have a long way to go. Because even if they're telling great stories, they're not necessarily telling them well. The "your princess is in another castle" trope has been haunting video games for the last 30 years, and it's about time we left it in the graveyard. God of War isn't even the worst culprit when it comes to this. A game that I felt was totally ruined by a repeated conveyor belt of MacGuffins was Batman Arkham City. Now, the plot of that game is supposedly Batman versus Dr. Hugo Strange. It's a psychological battle between the world's greatest detective and the man smart enough to figure out his secret identity. But about an hour into the game, the Joker infects Batman with a deadly toxin, totally sidetracking him for the majority of the story. And Batman's journey to the cure of that toxin is convoluted beyond belief. This is the list from what I can remember, but I'm pretty sure it was even worse than this. Batman is infected with the toxin, so he wants to find the cure. The person who can make the cure is Mr. Freeze. But oh wait, Mr. Freeze has been taken captive by the Penguin. So you find out where the Penguin is. But oh wait, you can't get in before you disable 3 radio jammers. So you disable them and you get in and free Mr. Freeze. But oh wait, without his suit he'll die. So you go fight some guys and get his suit. But oh wait, the Penguin has his gun and he needs it to make the cure. So you defeat the Penguin and you get the gun. But oh wait, Freeze now needs a lab to make the cure in. So you free the old police lab for him. But oh wait, now he needs Ra's al Ghul's blood or something. So you spend several hours tracking down Ra's al Ghul and finally get the special ingredient that Mr. Freeze needs. But oh wait, the Joker has attacked the police lab. So now you free the police lab again. But oh wait, now Freeze Freeze wants you to get his frozen wife's body away from the Joker. So you go do that and then come back. But oh wait, for some reason I can't even remember, you and Mr. Freeze fight. So you beat him. But oh wait, while you fought, Harley Quinn stole the cure. So you go and get it back, and finally, the toxin plot is over. At a certain stage during that sequence of events, I feel like Batman should probably have just given up and died. The point is, games need to stop doing this. And you might ask, but how? How can games be dozens of hours long if they don't concede to this kind of storytelling? If they don't pad out their length with a procession of MacGuffins, then how will they give us enough bang for our buck? Well, to heap more praise on a game that I've certainly praised a lot already, future games should turn to The Witcher 3. From the outset of that game, your objective is to find your daughter, Ciri. But the game doesn't repeatedly make you feel like Ciri's just around the corner and then pull her away at the last minute until you pick a red flower from the top of a dead river hag's head. From the outset, it just straight up tells you that you need to go to 3 separate locations to find the clues to where Ciri is, and then you'll find her. And that's exactly what happens. So the issue isn't necessarily MacGuffins, but it's how they're being used. In Infinity War, we know that Thanos will win when he gets all 6 Infinity Stones. When he does get them all, someone doesn't just pop out of nowhere and tell him, okay, but you also need to get the Heart of Te Fiti to power the stones, so go do that too. No, he just gets all 6 and then uses them as advertised. So, how could God of War improve its storytelling in its inevitable sequel? Well, it just has to follow the example of The Witcher and Infinity War. Lay out what you need from the start. Let's say Thor is the bad guy. Well, from the beginning, you tell players that to defeat him, they're going to need 3 items. They have a big open world to explore, and they can tackle each of these 3 items in whatever order they prefer. Once you have those 3 items, you can use them as advertised and defeat Thor. And then after that, you just move the story along to the next plot point. Maybe there's another god to defeat, another ally to save, or who knows what else. That way, players don't feel like they're chasing their tails for the entire game. They feel like they and their character are accomplishing the things they set out to do. You get those 3 things to beat Thor, and then you do it. You get that 1 thing to tame the world snake, and then you ride him up into Valhalla. That way, every MacGuffin in the story feels like it's actually important. And that way, the player truly feels like they have agency, rather than being subject to the whims of a trickster god who enjoys deep psychological torture. But, to sum up this whole nitpick succinctly, stop telling players that their princess is in another castle. And instead, put a princess in every castle. Okay, so it's appreciation time now. I know I've spent most of this video ragging on about a little issue I have with God of War, but I stand by what I say at the beginning. It is a masterpiece. If you don't own a PS4, it's 100% worth buying one to play this game. If you're a fan of story-driven games like I am, or a fan of challenging, difficult combat like a lot of Dark Souls fans are, then this game has both. And honestly, not since The Witcher 3 has a game made me go, oh shit, at epic moments, while at the same time making me feel deeply emotional during the lower key, more character-driven moments in the story as well. It is, hands down, the best game I've played since The Witcher 3. And that is the biggest praise I can give any game.